Murrow honoree. I'm sorry our paths didn't meet when we were at CBS Sports, but we spent some time this morning chatting and sharing stories about women in sports and the challenges and tribulations thereof. But Elizabeth Beth Tuura, WSU class of 1979, for the past 12 years has covered every Olympic game for NBC as a technical director. She's also worked for CBS Sports on the NFL, the NBA, and golf. We shared some stories about that. And she has 2 National Sports Emmy Awards. An outstanding woman, and I'm so pleased. I mean, this wasn't meant to be a ladies' night, but it just sort of looks like. But that we are recognizing someone in a field that isn't often recognized, and that's the technical side. And it gives me great honor to welcome up Beth Tuura. Thank you.
To say I'm overwhelmed is an understatement. I've spent my entire working career behind the scenes, so I'm very uncomfortable in the spotlight. My job is to make people like Carrie and Bertha look great, and the on-air people look good and have no problems. That's what I like this gentleman here, this young lady here. So you saw 2 professionals speak. Now you've got to struggle through my couple pieces of paper I wrote down. I just wanted to say that when I graduated in 1979, this was still part of the liberal arts college, and I had a great education. They can't take that away from you. But we had, I want to say, a handful of film cameras that could only be checked out by people in the upper news writing group. So there was no electronic media. And we had to work through the studio. We had these turret cameras, which I don't even know if you have them here. You probably threw them in the garbage. But the technical part is something that I had to learn on the job. But what Washington State gave me is the confidence to go ahead and do that. There were many times starting out where people would ask me, do you know how to do X, Y, and Z? And I'd say, yes. And I would just go over to the technician and say, how do you do this? And I would just figure it out. There weren't a lot of women in engineering. There still aren't a lot of women, a lot more than there were. But when my first jobs at Como TV, my boss said to me, Beth, where do you see yourself in 5 years? And I said, I'd really like to be a technical director. And he said, that's impossible because women don't have that aptitude. I swear to God. And I went, okay. And I said a few words to myself. And, I did everything that they required me to do and then some. And I had to get my FCC first class license, which was very difficult to do. I ran camera for that lady over there. Did audio, did video, did all these things. And that just wasn't enough for me. I really wanted to go into sports. And the Seattle market just didn't have a lot of those opportunities. So I ended up working at Cairo. I was a director. And it's still, news just didn't hold anything for me because when I left here, I wasn't quite sure what I wanted to do. I knew I didn't want to be on air. And then when I got exposed to the technical side of it, I thought, this is what I want to do. When I moved to Florida, I had to start over, and I had some opportunities come up in Atlanta. I worked for Turner, and I was a TD for them, and they just said, hey, here, just do all this stuff. I did Braves baseball. I did TNT on NBA and TBS NBA. I started doing figure skating for some groups, but that's how I got introduced to the NBC people, and I left Turner. I left a great company, and I started freelancing, and that's when I started doing a lot of work with the NBC group, and they took me along to do Olympics, and my first NBC Olympics was the Salt Lake Olympics, and I did figure skating, which is an A venue, very stressful, and because of the time zone, it was live. I don't know if you know this or not, but it's pretty much taped. So I remember that was the first time my mother, who didn't know what I did, she just knew I traveled a lot, she called me and she said, are you nervous? And I said, why? Because there's about 1 billion people that are going to watch the women's figure skating, and I thought, thank you, now I am nervous. And I just remember sitting there and telling myself, Beth, breathe and focus, because television is a lot of yelling. And this was just one of those yelling nights, because you had the chairman sitting in the back and all these big mucky mucks. They, of course, will show up on the big shows, and the director's yelling things that he doesn't really want, and you're just trying to stay focused. So it was a great experience, and I guess I did okay. They let me come back a few more times, but I guess what Washington State gave to me was a great education and confidence to just know in my heart that what that guy told me back at Como was not true. That was just his generation for whatever reason. So thank you very much for this award. This is awesome.